This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. We've established many times in getting together with her that art is therapeutic. It helps so many to express yourself, get out of what's in you onto a medium, paper, whatever it is. It's definitely therapy. It's an eye-opener too. But so many of us say, I can't draw. I'm not creative. I can't. No, I wouldn't even think of it. We're going to look at it a different way today, where you can create art without drawing. How amazing. There's so much art in our world, but we don't even realize it. She is our professional of the year. Yes, she's an art therapist and helps so many. I've learned so much from her. She's creative, talented, and insightful with all of this. Barbara Robertson is back with us. How are you today?
I'm very well, thanks, Steve. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. I don't even know where to begin today. You're going to show us examples here of different types of art, but not drawn.
Exactly. Art that you can make from old scraps of fabric, art that you can make from recycled cardboard packaging and paper towel tubes and shoebox lids, and art that you can make from twigs and branches, all kinds of things. Even art that you can make to be consumed for a meal.
Well, they do say, if you get something prepared, you look at it, it's beautiful. Like, this is like art. Look at what you've done. You've seen it all. You've worked with so many. And we know you've heard, like, I can't draw. But I'm sure you've heard too, I don't have a creative bone in my body. And we're going to dispel that today by making these suggestions that there are many different types of things that it's considered art. And the baseline here is it's freedom of expression, but expressing what's inside of you.
Beautifully put. Thank you so much. Exactly. And it really does make me sad when I hear somebody say, oh, I'm not creative at all. I just don't happen to believe that. I think that each of us comes into life with an active creative part of us, and we use creativity just to get through the course of a single day. So if you think about the choices that you make in some ways to make your day feel good or to make things kind of hold together, sure, there are days that are chaotic and you probably don't have a lot of control over those. But on the other hand, when you do have control over certain things, my guess is that you can exert a little bit of your preference in how those things play out. And that to me is the essence of creativity.
I completely agree. And many companies are hiring now based on somebody's creativity. You could be an IT person. We're looking for somebody that is a creative problem solver. There is creativity everywhere. And in my journey, I'm starting to see that we're here for a few reasons. And it to me, it's this. We're here to create, learn, and teach. And if you wonder about the creation thing, how is that even possible? We create more of us when you think of it. There's creation right there going on. And that's just the beginning. Right. That's just the beginning.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I have another sort of guru that I like to listen to on a meditation app who talks about how we are souls on a human journey. And our purpose here on the soul's journey in the human condition, the human state, is to explore, experience, and last, express. And that's where the creativity comes. It's in showing something about your life experience that rings true for you.
Wow. I just wrote that down. The triple E. Explore, experience, and express. Yeah. And I'm on your page. It was maybe like 3 years ago. I had that flash one day. I know I could tell you, I was in my garage. I was staring out at a little bit of rain. Trees were right there. And I'm just looking. And I don't know what it was. I was like, I could be anywhere. And I could be happy. It could be okay. I don't have to be in the mountains somewhere, whatever. And I had that somehow it clicked in my brain that We are spiritual beings in these human containers. It's not the other way around. We look at it
That's a
that
great
way.
way. Yeah, that's a great way to put it too. Yeah, spiritual beings in human containers. And in a way, our bodies are our soul's soulmate because
Ooh,
we're sort of meant, and that's from the guru in this meditation app also, Darius Bashar. He's a wonderful creative coach. And I really love the way that he has to put things. His phrasing just really invites you to kind of open up your eyes and see things from a little different angle.
wow.
But
That's a
yeah,
that's a powerful statement. Our bodies are our soulmates because many of us, I'm searching for my soulmate. All right, that's great. You know, we crave connection, intimacy, et cetera, et cetera. But it goes back to the fundamental where we need to love ourselves and we
exactly.
are our own soulmate. You know, and so you hear somebody say, "Yeah, I'm going out. I'm dating myself tonight." You know, taking myself out to the movies and dinner or whatever it might be. Um, we don't look at it that way, but that's a beautiful way to look at it. And nobody, prove me wrong on this one. Nobody is going to take care of you better than you. Nobody's going to love you more than you love yourself or should.
I I really believe that. And for the reason that we are the ones who've witnessed our entire span of life experience. So the parts of us that often feel not enough love are actually kind of holdovers from childhood when
Yes.
we didn't find that our caregivers were attuned enough, were attentive enough. But we can notice that and we can go back and provide that attunement and that connection when we pay attention to what it is inside us that responds joyfully to a life experience.
Mm.
That's this sort of internal compass that each one of us has that kind of drive us toward our purpose. And I want to kind of use that to carry over into the quilts that I want to show you, which are really a historical, um, I want to almost say, set of masterworks. The quilts have become a tradition in the little town of Gee's Bend, Mississippi, which is a little distance out into the country, not close to very much, but not too far from Jackson. And the people who have lived there are descendants of enslaved African people who came to this country not of their own free will and had to live extremely impoverished lives. And in order to stay warm in the winter, the women began to undertake making quilts from scraps of fabric that they could find from discarded or worn out clothing.
Wow.
They were able to cut parts of the fabric that weren't badly worn and then piece them together into a large enough area to cover a family member. And this became a tradition over generations. And in the early 2000s, uh, my understanding is that an art collector was traveling through the South looking for um, art that was made kind of spontaneously without an art education, art that is part of a community and part of a culture of a locale. So, kind of not just a collector, but a historian and maybe even a sociologist. And he came across this little town and these astonishing quilts, and they quickly became widely recognized as really American masterpieces.
Wow.
So I have a little slideshow to show you
Yeah,
if I
let's
can
check this
just
out. And it
get
just
that.
breaks the mold of people thinking that I can't be creative. I can't, you know, I can't draw. I can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So these are, this was done in 2015, this photograph, and these are members of the Petaway family, the Mingo family, and the Bendall family of Gee's Bend, with some smaller parts of quilts that they're in the process of making. And once they became known, the U.S. Postal Service decided to include them in their American Treasure series of postage stamps. So each
Wow.
one of these is a large double bed size quilt.
Hmm.
Just look at the variety of design and the looseness. I mean, what do you notice about these different quilts here that you might be able to say about each one of them in a way?
So I've enabled you to share the screen. Yeah, just waiting for you to bring it up there.
Ah, okay. Let's see. Can you see this now?
I do not.
Oh dear. Okay, much. Ah, how do we fix this? So you've enabled me. Oh, okay. I'm missing one important step. Here we go.
It'd be easier to make a damn quilt. There we go.
Yes. Okay. So now let me get the slideshow going so you don't have to see all this rigmarole on the screen. Okay. Can you see it now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So these are the ladies from the Mingo family, the Petaway family, and the Bendall family who have many generations of quilt makers in their
Wow.
ancestry and their descendants. And these are the postage stamps that were, I think, put out in 2006. So they've been around a while. And these quilts have now been shown in museums in 40 different countries all over the world. So I have a few examples to show you. And what I want to invite you to notice is how there's not a lot of concern about exact right angles,
Yeah.
precise geometry. They're called improvisational work because they worked with the fabric they had in the shapes that they had, and they improvised ways to create those shapes like puzzle pieces going together to make a pleasing whole.
And the one I'm looking at right now, just to briefly describe it, it's got squares and shapes within the squares and just three colors, black, red, and white. Um, there is some symmetry. I mean, it follows along. This is out of the ones I've seen so far that you flash quick. This is probably the most, I don't know what I would say exact, but then there are some shapes that are just freeform, where
That's
they're
right.
not def definitively cut. Um, and this is just people sewing this together?
People sewing strips and squares and triangles of fabric together. And you might notice there's one area here that's not the same red. All the other reds are matching, but this one is really kind of a hot pink.
I didn't even notice that until you said it.
So apparently the quilt maker ran out of that bright red and
Hmm.
found something that was in the neighborhood of that color family.
Wow.
And it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb at all. It fits right in.
It does. I can't believe I didn't see it. And maybe, metaphorically, there's something there where in our lives, sometimes there's something different, but it can fit in, and that could be somebody from a different race, whatever it may be. Do you feel that these are done with one large fabric, if you will, and then the pieces are sewn on that?
I don't really know how the backings are for these. I know that the fronts are pieced together from small pieces,
Hmm.
and then typically they would piece them into similar size squares. So this one may be like a by 3.5, it almost looks like, set of squares. There's um, not quite four vertically.
Right.
They're pretty close to three horizontally, but then it doesn't hold to that pattern through the whole thing because adjustments were made, and yet it's still very balanced in terms of a composition. Now, what goes on to the backing to kind of hold the cotton batting in, I really don't know. And that probably those in the early quilts were pieced together as well.
Mm,
And this is an area where cotton has long been grown, and in there are a couple of videos that are online in which some of the quilters are speaking about their lives, and one said that she was still involved in picking cotton. And so I know that they had access to batting to put in between the layers of fabric that would really have helped them to be warmer in the cold months.
Mm. This is beautiful. Gotta
Isn't it?
say. Um,
Let me show you the next one.
sure.
This one is a whole different sort of palette of colors.
Yeah.
Again, we're not too concerned about absolute right angles or absolute symmetry. They're kind of three rectangular bars on the lower edge, but only two on the top edge. A center area of different color combinations than the rest,
Hmm.
and yet it has a great feeling of liveliness and harmony for me.
Very much so. And I wonder what the intention was with the center block, which is sort of like a checkerboard square of red and yellow. I wonder why that was selected for the center.
I have no idea. I
Yeah.
think we could only guess.
Maybe there was no reason. It was just
Maybe there was
need a
no reason,
need
or
a starting
maybe
point.
maybe that was a block that was used to teach one of the younger girls or women in the community how to piece pieces together. They're fairly symmetrical shapes, so it would have been a good kind of geometric design to begin getting skills developed on, and then use that as the centerpiece for a quilt that many people added into.
This one, in this photograph of the quilt, you can see fabric texture. Unlike the last one could have been a
True.
lithograph. It was
Yes.
that perfect.
Yes.
This one I can see, some of the shading of like when you take a look at a picture of a fabric, you can see, a little
Right.
bit of dimension to
Right.
it.
Exactly. Yep, and it looks like, there's a backing on it that might have been a dark blue, and the band, the outer edge on the top is red. So it
Yeah.
does look like there's a double layer there as well. And you can see some wrinkles and some ripples in the fabric here. So yeah, this one really does give you a much better kind of indication of its heft, its thickness. Here's another one that's not at all symmetrical or exactly symmetrical, and yet it still has a feeling of balance. There's a couple of black, one solid black and one black with tiny blue dots on it in the top half, and then a fabric with daisies against a dark background that goes across to the left corner and then down in an angled shape, almost like it was a part of a shirt and a sleeve.
Mm. This
And
one
there's a
is, yeah, there's that one red fabric that's in there, just a strip. Um,
yeah.
this one truly looks, out of the ones we've seen so far, um, very random. Like the other ones, there was maybe a pattern going on there,
Yep.
repetition of
Mhm.
pattern. This is, I got a piece here, I got a piece there. Oh, I got a red strip. Let me put that in there. I got a black piece right here. I'm going to put that there. Uh, they're all fantastic. This one just looks like it's just, I'm going to make something with what I got.
Right. And you can kind of feel that improvisation in this.
Mm, yeah.
That sort of, let's just go with what we've got.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I want something put together that's big enough to cover my kid.
The one thing with these photographs and the captions that come along with them, I I, I would love to see the size, by 9 by
Yeah.
12, 8 by 10, whatever the size would be, just out of, curiosity in terms of the magnitude.
Well,
But
they are pretty large. When I've seen them in museums, and online, you might spot a couple of photographs of one of the quilters standing in front of the quilt. They're about the size that you might find a double or a queen bed comforter would be in the store.
gotcha. Hmm. So I may be safe to assume that they had to put pieces of let's say those stripes there at the bottom, the black and white stripes, bottom, I call it almost a third of this particular quilt, that they maybe even had to piece that together, and they kept the uniform shape. Because
Yeah,
where are you going to find a big piece of fabric like that to support the
exactly.
size of a quilt?
Exactly. That
Hmm.
could well have been done. It looks like the stripes here may have also been pieced together. There's sort of a gray and white striped strip that
Yes.
goes clear
Yes.
across. But as I look closely, I'm seeing a couple of seams in here as
Yeah.
well. And this
Hmm.
is curious here, where there's a black stripe, but she decided not to cut the fabric down the edge of the stripe. She had a little bit of extra fabric to the right. There's a little
Uh-huh.
part of a white stripe and a tiny bit of a black stripe in a kind of angled edge of that. And that actually gives it wonderful kind of visual interest. And look how it echoes the upper corner. Well, we got going
Oh,
on in the upper corner. There's this little triangle,
yeah. I
and here's a
see.
little triangle on the opposite side. So in a way, it's visually balanced when somebody who wasn't used to looking at lots of different patterns together might have just said, oh, well, this is striped. I'm going to cut it right along the edge of the stripe and it'll be neat. But she would have missed that opportunity.
This is why you do what you do, because I see it, but I didn't see it until you brought it, out. And this also helps break the mold of it doesn't have to be perfect. That's not the goal here. Anybody could
Absolutely.
do this. Anybody could do
Yes.
this short of the sewing skills.
Yes, the sewing skills are something. They really are because I mean, and they are quilted. So lots and lots of paths of stitching once the patterns are put together. So you sew
Mm.
the colorful strips together and then you attach it to the back with the batting inside, and then you sew through all the layers
Ooh, wow.
in different ways to keep it from scooching around inside. So you'll have even, insulation from
Yeah.
head to toe. Yeah,
These aren't just blankets. These are quilts.
absolutely. And here's another piece where they had lots of strips, but they weren't exactly rectangular. And so they managed to kind of piece them together into a basic rectangular format, but they were fine with the way they went together. And I think in a way, having some limitations like that, this is what you get to work with here, really does activate your creativity because you don't have carte blanche, but you do have lots of things to look at together. And so you start practicing seeing when you're putting these different colors together and you start to see things in a new way. The more you look, the more you see.
Interesting colors here. We have a couple of shades of purple, a couple of shades of, call it a mauve, a little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow. I wouldn't call it yellow. I would call it more of a golden color. But
Yeah.
the colors all beautifully work together.
And they're mostly pretty muted colors,
Yeah. Yeah.
except for the reds. But even the reds are a little bit off red. They're a little bit either orange or kind of burnt sienna, just a little tad of brown in it. And even some of the grays have a little bit of brown or tan. And so they're in the same kind of value range as each other, which also gives them consistency and
Mm.
helps them hold together as, as the whole composition. Now, here's some quilts, two by members of the Abrams family and two by the Bendolph family. And you can see Ella Bendolph, probably the mother of Mary Lee Bendolph. She was born in 1904 and died in 95, so had a good
Mm.
long life.
Wow.
Mary Lee was born in 1935, and she learned how to quilt from her mom. And this quilt here that Ella made was probably just looking at the colors made mostly from work clothes. That was one of the things
Mm.
that the earlier quilters had that they were able to use and cut apart and reuse by finding the pieces that weren't too worn out, pieces that were not the knees or the seat of a pair of pants or not the elbows of a sleeve.
I have to tell you, and we're just about out of time, but that
Oh,
is one of my fascinations in that how people back in the day were able to make fabric, come up with the colors, sew it. I could stare for hours at photographs of the mid 1800s when photography was just coming into play, and
yeah.
just the what people wore. Like, how did you do that? How did they? sew these things, and these clothes that you look at in these photographs around that period, and of course they're black and white, look like what we're wearing now. How'd they do
I
that?
know it really is pretty astonishing.
It really is. It truly, truly is.
Yeah.
Uh, this has been definitely an eye opener as to what can be done in terms of art, because it definitely counts as art. Um, and this is just part of what you do, inspiring people to express themselves and also have a great therapeutic result from it. Barbara, how do we find you?
You can check me out on my website, which is Robertson Art Therapy, LLC, all the letters just strung together, .com, or my email is brobertson, ROBERTSON .atr@gmail.com. So shoot me an email if you have a question or an observation, you want to connect. I would love to hear from you. What might you like to learn more about art therapy or about making your own art? And I can bring more kind of different ways to create art that's not drawing something next
Mm,
week, and bring some more ideas about learning how to really look and see. Anyway, lots
would
and
love it.
lots of things to talk about.
Yeah, and therapy is fantastic and so helpful for so many of us. But imagine doing it a little bit differently in terms of expressing yourself through art and getting the job done. Love it. Barbara, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the weekend. We'll catch up soon, okay?
You too. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Bye
We'll be
now.
right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.